Imagine a boy who, at just 9 years old, swore an oath to destroy the most powerful empire on earth. He didn't just fight them, he humiliated them. Defying the impossible, he marched an army of elephants across the frozen Alps to strike at the very heart of Rome. He was not merely a military commander, he was the living nightmare that haunted Roman beds for generations. Today, we unveil the legend of the man who came closest to erasing Rome from the pages of history. Before Hannibal was a commander, he was a son of fire. His father, Hamilcar, the Carthaginian lion, saw Rome as a plague that had to be eradicated. In an ancient temple, thick with the scent of incense and iron, Hamilcar placed his 9-year-old son's hand upon the blood of a sacrificial victim and forced him to swear a sacred oath, never to be a friend to Rome. This was no mere promise. It was a fateful doom that followed him like his shadow. Hannibal was trained not as a prince, but as a predatory beast, stalking the wilderness. He learned that a leader does not rule from a throne, but writes history with his own blood on the battlefield. He grew up seeing in his father's eyes that the world was a combat arena, and that Rome was the only target worth living for. This oath was the compass that guided his life toward greatness, transforming the boy into a human hurricane, waiting for the perfect moment to choke the very breath out of Rome. When Hamilcar died, their enemies thought Carthage was finished, but they forgot. Hannibal, at the age of 26, Hannibal rose to power, not by political decree, but by the decree of his soldiers' hearts, who saw him as their only lifeline. Thousands of men from diverse tribes shouted his name, yearning for glory. Why? Because he fought in the front lines, ate their coarse rations, and slept on the bare ground beside them, sharing the cruelty of life and the bitterness of war. He did not demand loyalty, he commanded it, through his extraordinary aura that illuminated the darkness of battle. The soldiers did not follow him for gold, but because they saw a leader who envisioned a future, invisible to anyone else, a commander touched by destiny, ensuring victory wherever he set foot. In that moment, a god of war walking among mortals was born, leaving an indelible mark on history as a leader who comes but once in an age. The world called it suicide, and the maps declared it impossible. But Hannibal saw the world through different eyes, eyes that challenged the unattainable. The Alps stood as a towering wall of ice and rock, but Hannibal forced the mountains to bow before his iron will. He led 60,000 men and massive elephants into the heart of the storm, piercing through the dizzying peaks. The winds tore at their faces, and rocks rained down like hellfire. But he rode at the vanguard, facing death with unblinking, fearless eyes. He was not a commander who watched from afar. He was the hammer that shattered the ice and forged paths for the survivors. He transformed his exhausted soldiers into an unstoppable force of nature, writing history above the clouds with their blood and their sweat, in an epic tale that generations will pass down as living proof that human will is stronger than the cruelty of mountains. Hannibal reached Italy and unleashed his sinister, unpredictable genius. At the Battle of Cannae, he didn't just fight with an army. He deployed a brilliant, hellish trap that annihilated 80,000 Roman soldiers in a matter of hours, grinding their pride into dust. And because he was a master of tactical terror, during a naval battle, he hurled clay jars filled with venomous serpents onto his enemies' ships, forcing them to face a crawling foe that crept from everywhere, an enemy that could not be slain by the sword. The world held its breath, and hearts stopped beating in sheer awe. Hannibal proved that a great commander is not the one with the largest numbers or gear, but the one who possesses the plan, that makes the enemy tremble at the mere mention of his name in their dreams. He toyed with the fate of the empire, like a virtuoso playing an instrument, turning battlefields into a masterpiece of blood and victory. After the war ended, the unexpected happened. Hannibal decided to begin the journey of transformation from within. He returned to Carthage, not to bask in the luxury of hollow glory, but to become the chief magistrate, feared by tyrants. He stormed the halls of politics to fight Carthage's most lethal enemy, the corruption, rotting the state's bones. He discovered that the merchants who had abandoned him during the war were plundering the people's wealth and trafficking in innocent blood. He forced them to return the stolen funds to rebuild the collapsed economy. He proved to the world that a true leader does not just protect his borders with swords, but shields his people from internal thieves who steal their future in the name of the law. Here, Hannibal was fighting a battle harder than any before it, the battle for integrity in a city that had sold its soul, becoming a symbol of justice in an era where truth had vanished. Yet, the powerful never forgave him for his integrity. The truth was harsher on them than the swords of Rome. They conspired with the enemy and sold out their greatest hero to Rome in a despicable act of treason that will forever be etched in the memory of free men. Hannibal became a fugitive in exile, and when the Romans finally surrounded him, he refused to grant them the honor of capturing or humiliating him. He drank poison with absolute dignity, choosing to depart as an unbowed hero, leaving behind words that thundered through history like a lightning bolt. Let us relieve the Romans of their long anxiety, since they think it too long to wait for the death of an old man. The body perished, but the legend remains.